The city of Baltimore is on alert today as the first court hearing in the death of Freddie Gray gets started. A group of protesters gathered outside the courthouse before the hearing got underway. Bigger crowds are expected to gather later today.
6 officers are charged in Freddie Gray's death. The 25-year-old died in April after suffering a spinal injury while in police custody. The defense is pushing for all charges to be dropped. Another big issue in court today is whether state attorney for the city of Baltimore, Marilyn Mosby, should recuse herself.
We're joined now by Washington Post reporter Janell Ross. Janell, thanks for being with us. You've written extensively about relations between protesters and police. How do you see today playing out?
Of course, no one can say with certainty what will happen, but I think certainly, almost certainly, we can say that a hearing will move forward. This is a preliminary hearing. There will be some protesters or people outside of the courthouse who want to express their views, and what will happen beyond that, I guess only time will tell us.
Let's talk big picture. In your experience, why do you think violent clashes between protesters and police keep occurring in the U.S.?
I think that, to be frank, that may be a sort of a question about what may already be in progress as opposed to what is happening. I think that there have been, for decades, some fairly significant evidence that in some communities, there are an elevated number of arrests. There are an elevated number of at least allegations of police misconduct or police brutality. And that is beginning to get attention, I believe, at this point because of the number of deaths that have occurred among unarmed young men of color primarily, and that is beginning to, I think, draw a lot more public attention to these issues, but it has been a long-standing issue in this country.
Janell, let me ask you about the Black Lives Matter movement, because there has been some backlash. As you know, some law enforcement officers argue that it shouldn't be Black Lives Matter, it should be All Lives Matter. And in fact, our top story today, a story that we're still continuing to cover, is the murder of a police officer in northern Illinois. A manhunt is underway for those 3 suspects. What do the people that you've spoken with, the demonstrators, the people who are part of the Black Lives Matter movement, say about that kind of criticism?
I think that the general response, I think, if I were trying to be as circumspect as possible, is this: that there is no part of the Black Lives Matter movement or the protest effort that is implied that anyone else's life does not matter. And in fact, I think the size of the manhunt that we are watching in Illinois, and certainly the rapid speed of an arrest and the officer shooting in Texas, really testify to the fact that when something terrible happens to a police officer, the justice system reacts swiftly and strongly. By contrast, when questions are raised about police officer possible misconduct, it remains extremely rare for charges to be filed and certainly for convictions to occur.
All right. Janell Ross, thank you so much for your insight.